Good afternoon, welcome back. You're still on the Polity, reaching you live from the nation's capital, Abuja, and I am Babajide. Now joining us to my right is Dr. Mefor, of course, a media consultant, and is not a new face on the Polity. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you.
It's good to see you after the Supreme Court verdict.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
That's true. And to my right is none other than Dr. Yahuza Getso, public policy analyst. Of course, he still has a security aspect to his name. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How are you? All right, now we'll get into Polity proper. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of today, let's talk about what has been happening on the Polity. We'll talk about the off-cycle elections coming up this Saturday. That's for Kogi State, Imo State, and Bayelsa. But before we get into that, it is pertinent to note that there's been a lot happening with the Nigerian Labour Congress and Imo State let's just say governor, not government, right now. And as of today, the IGP, that's Inspector General of Police, has changed the CP of Imo State, and that's, of course, a ripple effect of what some persons have been saying, that this election needs to be credible, and that person needs to go, given that they brought in Ajero to, they said they only brought him in not to beat him, but then we've seen pictures everywhere of the man without one eye. But then I'd like to ask our guest in the studio this afternoon, what's your take on all of these recent happenings between the Imo State government and, of course, the NLC right now? I'll start with Dr. Lott to my left.
Okay. So, you want to have a perspective to what has happened to Ajero?
Yes, that's correct.
And Labour in Imo. Oh, well, I somehow anticipated it. Yeah, because if you check the build-up, the Hope Uzodinma has been having a running battle with the Labour in Imo for close to 2 years now. And it started from the laying off of as many as 10 to 11,000 workers that he branded as ghosts. The reasons are not clear to anybody.
Okay.
It may have to do with those that were employed before the exit of the previous government, and they didn't want to inherit the workers, seeing them as a liability, and therefore lay them off without a due process. So the Labour NLC particularly has been up in arms with Hope Uzodinma on that particularly. Okay. And of course there has always been that meddling in the affairs of Labour in the state, to the point that the last state election there was mad with tainted, by that seen and unseen hands of the Uzodinma government. Okay. Now, fast forward to the present. The present is the manhandling of the NLC national president, Jude Ajero.
Yes.
Like I told you before, I said I sort of saw it coming. Okay. One is that Hope Uzodinma wants the people to believe that he doesn't owe nobody. And Labour in Imo says he owes, he's been through and forth and all that. So in the final analysis, what do you have? You have a gubernatorial election in which Hope is seeking re-election, just barely 2 weeks away, going from the day of that brutal engagement. You can see why the Hope is, called it out as an interference, that they were pure politics, they had nothing to do with Labour. You see, to be honest with you, right, I believe that, that particular protest was ill-timed, right?
Okay.
For me, right? But I don't think it was sufficient for government through the police to unleash that level of assault on the NLC president, Jude Ajero, because police told us in their usual way that he was taken into protective custody.
Okay.
If that is what they call protective custody, then nobody would want to go into it. You go into protective custody and you come out, with a black eye. The man's right eye is almost, I read where they are saying that he has to undergo some scan to ascertain if there are further injuries, especially internally, even head scan. These are scary stuff. I think the protest in the democracy is purely the people's right. And the democracy without peaceful, lawful protest, I don't think is democracy at all. So I want to believe that both sides are really wrong, because I think there was at that time a subsisting court order, right? They are saying there shouldn't be. I don't think that court order was vacated.
It was vacated.
And another one even came out 2 or 3 days ago. For me, see, given the fact that Labour, Labour in Imo is an interested party in this gubernatorial election. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because they endorsed Acholonu, right?
Yes.
Who is the candidate, the candidate of the Labour Party. If you have endorsed a candidate, you have become a party to the election. You see where the problem is. So for me, the timing, this protest ought to have come like 1 year ago, not a week or two to a governorship election in which you have a high stake. Many would argue that it doesn't matter when it comes, that Labour can even use that as a campaign tool to ensure that the man who has been responsible for their suffering is not given a second term. Then the governor is fighting back, in the way and manner he understands, which is uncivilized, contemptible. Do you understand that? Let me just leave it at that.
Okay,
this is a very, very unnecessary face-off and confrontation.
So I'm going to bring out 2 questions from what you've said now to Dr. Yahuza. Dr. Yahuza, was it, Dr. Loa said it was ill-timed and NLC versus Imo State government. Do you think it was ill-timed? That's the first question. Then the second one is, do you think it has anything to do with the forthcoming elections? Because some persons have said the NLC is not totally straightforward. It's supposed to be a non-partisan body, but then as of the last presidential election, some persons have come out to say NLC was probably in favor of the Labour Party presidential candidate. Do you think it was ill-timed, and do you think this has anything to do with the forthcoming elections?
Well, the answer to your first question is yes.
Okay.
While the answer to the second question is kind of conflicting.
Okay.
Whereby, one, I want to call on the attention of the Hope Uzodinma that Nigeria is under democracy, is not a militarized environment. And he cannot kind of proceed with radical approach in dealing with the civil case.
Okay.
Because as far as I'm concerned, all of us, we Nigerians, we have to send message to all the politicians, not only Hope Uzodinma, and to any politician that such acts is condemnable and cannot be accepted and cannot be welcomed. And the reality is, if you say you took somebody to a safe haven or safe custody, why do that person have to come out with almost one eye, losing almost an eye? Because every human being, he's supposed to come out smiling, very happy, and to have every information required to address the public.
If you say you are taking someone to safe haven, what happened prior to that time?
So, and then what happened after? Why do Hope Uzodinma also have to continue to argue with the public, saying no, this one is yes, this one is no? And the Nigerian police, the IGP should also know that we are condemning in totality the action of the Nigerian police force in Imo State, and we are not ready. When I say we, I'm talking about we the Democrats. We are not ready to accept such brutality, and we will not accept it from anybody. And Nigerian police have to come out publicly to apologize to Ajero and the Nigerian public, and especially Nigerian civil servants. Why I say the second part of your question is a complex is simply because Hope Ozodima knew that when he says that this number of politicians are not in the list of his the civil servant he inherited.
Okay.
Taking that measure, he continued to play his own politics until when he feels that it is time. What do you expect for Labour to do? I support Labour to, but of course, all the Nigerian Labour members, they are also members of Nigerian citizens, and they have the right to choose any political party they want to belong to or they want to support, and they should have their reasons. If you say you are supporting Hope Ozodima, or you are supporting President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, or you are supporting Atiku Abubakar, or you are supporting Peter Obi, or Kwankwaso, or whosoever you are supporting, you must have your own reason. And every Nigerian, be it either in the military, or either in the civil service, or either in the business arena, wherever you are, you should have a choice of which party you want to belong to. So there is nothing wrong in the Nigerian Labour Congress endorsing the Labour Party. I personally believe that I am 100% in support of their position.
So you think
why? Because they want to get they are struggling for the right of those civil servants that have been sacked.
But in struggling for the rights of the civil servants, don't you think they should remain in between, not support a party? Because at the end of the day, you fighting for the right of people. You don't necessarily have to belong to a political faction.
Well, I think
when you were part of the
I think I have clear ground by saying that every Nigerians have the right to belong to one party or another.
But not the NLC.
Even the NLC.
Why does the NLC have to be?
Simply because they are struggling to have a stable state in Imo State. Why? Because in the last time when he came into power, he made it very clear by taking a number of a very high portion of the civil servants who are members of the Nigerian Labour Congress, saying that they are not part of the civil servant he is inheriting. And he keep playing his own game, not until when the election come around. So at a time when election come around, the Nigerian Labour Congress have the right for them to also bring back that into the table. And if at all he wanted it to be dealt with amicably and diplomatically, he wouldn't have go into assaulting the Labour leadership. Even if he could do that, he could have find a way of making a dialogue. So whereby making it a public, so that he will now let the public take a decision, or take it that it is the Labour that are fighting Hope Ozodima. But by what they have done to the national leader is not a state leader. Ajiro is not a state leader. Is the national leader of the Nigerian Labour Congress.
Okay, now
so when you come around the fire, when somebody is frying a fish, and you say, no, I'm after the fish, not after the fire, and you hit the gas cooker, are you really after the fish or after the fire?
And now that you said he's a national leader, I like the fact that you reminded us that Ajero is a national leader.
Yes.
And now, if he comes out to say anything that is against the present administration, that's an infirm of the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you should think some persons would say he's saying all of these things because it's not his party that is in power.
Well, I don't believe in that. I only believe that he was kind of trying to have a mediation. He wanted to push the national government even to come back to the drawing table of the promises that it disappointed the Nigerian Labour and the Nigerians at large. Because the national strike that was dialogue between the Minister of Labour and Productivity, that is Samuel Lalong, there was a dialogue between the Nigerian Labour and the Nigerian government and the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government, and they reached consensus on itemized outline items that by so date will be implemented, by so date will be implemented. And if ABCD have not been attended to, yes, Ajero as a national leader has the right at any point in time where he may find himself, either in Sokoto, either in Enugu, either in Imo, either in Kano, either in Abuja, wherever, to say that ABCD have not been complied, the federal government have not complied, and he wasn't responding specifically to the matters around, but he was, in his own case, in the case of this brutality, it was made purposely because of the Labour position of endorsing the Nigerian Labour, the Labour Party candidate, rather, not because of what his comment, rather.
Okay, all right. Do you agree with that? That the Nigerian Labour Congress should be allowed to participate in politics, given what we have on ground in Nigeria right now?
Well, you see, it depends on where one is coming from.
Okay.
But essentially, the NLC is the umbrella labor organization of all the trade unions in Nigeria, particularly for the junior ones. TUC is there for a different segment. And because NLC cuts across,
Okay.
you know, Nigerians of all shades, all nationalities, all ethnicity, religion, and so on, and even political parties. NLC, in principle, ought not to be attached to a particular political party. Once you declare for a political party, then you become an opponent, unless the party you support is the party in power. If the party you support is the party in power, you have little or no problem, because it is your political party anyway.
Sorry to cut you short now. If your party eventually wins, would you be able to call your party up on their board?
That's where the problem is. That is why it is not advisable for you to be attached to a political party.
Okay.
To even endorse a particular candidate. Vote with your card. Do you understand what I'm saying? You can make a statement, right? You know, you can make a statement and then sort of in a subtlety guide your members to understand the candidate and the political party that best represent their own interest. This can be done quietly, subtly, but you don't just come and endorse a political party to the exclusion of the other political parties. It is wrong, in my own estimation. Do you understand what I'm saying? I may be wrong, but this is my own estimation. Is the way I see it, and I have already given you some reasons to that effect. If you remain neutral, it becomes easier for you to deal with whichever government is in power. Because if you fight against a candidate and against a political party, and you fail, and another political party you stood against comes to power, how will you be able to negotiate? You know, there is this adversarial relationship that will pervade you know, the relationship between you and that government in power, because you didn't support them. You see, perception is everything in politics. If you were neutral and you base your politics on issues, on clear demands, and you take on all the candidates on the issues that are of paramount importance to the labor and labor unions, if you take on them, people will be able to see who best stands the position to deal fairly with the labor when the person assumes a mantle of leadership. But where this is not the case, once you become partisan, it is very difficult to separate the interests of workers from its leadership. Because you are essentially not a political party. You are a pressure group. NLC is a pressure group. Even though you have the Labour Party, which by name sort of suggests that it is there essentially for the Nigerian labor, but it still doesn't make NLC a political party or an affiliate of the Labour Party. If they want that to be the case, do you understand what I'm saying? As appears to be the issue at the moment, if NLC wants to be seen as part and parcel of the Labour Party, let it be so declared. Then NLC will be seen as an adjunct of the Labour Party.
But won't that affect them fighting for the rights of
that is the problem here. It will certainly affect them fighting because the party you oppose will always find a way not to meet your expectations, and that is where the problem is. But if you were neutral as a pressure groups are not political parties. They pressure leaders, they pressure political parties to bend their policies, programs, and actions to be in line with what will meet the fundamental aspirations of those pressure groups. So if NLC sees itself as a pressure group, it will see that it is dangerous for it to align totally with a certain party or a certain candidate. And that is exactly what has affected the performance of Labour in the aftermath of the 2023 presidential election, because they endorsed the Labour Party. Do you understand that? They endorsed the Labour Party. So thereafter, every other issue they brought to the table was seen as going against Tinubu and APC actualizing the mandate that was already declared by INEC. And that affected everything. If they had remained neutral at the ratio, indirectly encouraging their members to do this and do that, the members can say anything, but not you, the national president, not you, the national officers, because whatever you say in support or against a particular candidate in an election will be used for or against you. And this is what has happened in Imo. Hope. Governor Hope Uzodinma is a very desperate person. He wants to return to power. So if you now bring the issue of Labour, the people he laid off because he believed that their employment was irregular and all that, and therefore he declared the ghost workers, what that means is that your protest, the Hope has interpreted rightly or wrongly as a campaign for Labour Party. That's the problem here. And it is coming from on the heels of the fact that you have actually endorsed the candidate of Labour in Imo gubernatorial election. You see where the problem is? So why you bring yourself into such a mix? You don't need it. You are endangering the interests of the workers by doing that.
And that's correct. That's correct. I would have loved us to flog that issue, but then let's move to something that's probably off what we're talking about now. Ex-governors should stop receiving pensions. That's coming from Femi Falana. I'd like us to probably chip in one or two before we talk about the off-cycle proper. I'll start with Dr. Law. What do you think ex-governors should stop receiving pensions? 2 ex-governors right now have stopped receiving a pension. And then I'd like to call your attention to the fact that some of our politicians right now are ex-governors, ex-National Assembly members, and now they've risen to be senators and probably ex-chairman and all of that. So if this keeps going on, that means they are collecting pension.
First and foremost, Nigeria is a country of the absurd, right? It's a country where anything goes, anything at all. For an appointment to be pensionable, if you go to civil service rule, governing the engagement of the public officers and civil officers, you have to hit a certain number of years. I think it's about 10 or something like that. Do you understand that? In fact, certain appointments, particularly public officers' appointments of certain categories, are not pensionable. That is why, they give you what they call severance package, which is made up of this and that, is to help you to manage your transition into a normal life once again. And the office of the governor is one of such offices that is not pensionable by law even. What that means is that the pension they are collecting now, based on whatever law they have concocted in their states, is actually illegal and recoverable. It's just that sometimes you wonder what a Nigerian Bar Association is doing. We can't see legal activism. We can't see people who understand the law in really taking up some public interest issues and challenging them. Look, this matter, if it goes to court, all of them that have collected pensions since 2007 to date will have to cough it out. And those of them who are receiving pension and at the same time receiving salaries in National Assembly, they are also committing another level of illegality. The money they do is the amounts to double payment. Do you understand that? You cannot be receiving salaries and pensions. It is illegal. You don't need to be a lawyer to understand this. What that means is that these people are using their official positions to commit criminality and illegality, and nobody is doing anything about it. Can Nigerian Bar Association do something about this? We call on lawyers like Femi Falana and others. Femi Falana has been doing fantastically well. He needs to do more. We need to recover this money. The money we are talking about runs into billions. They didn't stop there. Do you know that you have to purchase a house for them here in Abuja, valued at nothing less than 300 million. It's either here in Abuja or in their state capital.
As a minister or a governor?
The former governors,
oh, wow.
Right? Mm-hmm. You have to buy a house for them here in Abuja, minimum 300 million naira value. You have to renew their vehicles, a fleet of vehicles of 3 to 5 every 2 to 3 or 4 years. Apart from the salary, apart from the pension you are talking about, these are the other perks that they have allocated to themselves. I mean, when these were men, who were chief executive officers of their states, mostly 4 years to 8 years, right? Most of them served out, over 80 to 90% of them were there for a second term. Only very few didn't return, maybe 2 or 3 of them. Mm-hmm. They were chief executive officers, receiving kick back, kick front, kick side. Of course, you know what I am talking about.
That's correct.
And after amassing criminally and primitively amassing wealth, they still allocated their pensions to themselves. To what extent? Sometimes I wonder, how do these people really sleep? Don't they have conscience? Do you understand what I'm saying? They have pursued pauperization as a policy to the point that Nigerian masses are too weak to do anything. They can't complain, they can't protest. You protest, it is tear gas. It's a tear gas. The Nigerian police, they don't even use rubber bullets. They use live bullets. Many people have died just like that, unaccounted for. Jude Ajay is repairing his site now, all because of police brutality. Yes, because all those institutions that are supposed to be the buffer between Nigerian masses and government have all joined sides with the government to deal with the Nigerian masses. So the issue of pension, in summary, is illegal, is criminal. The money should be, apart from the money in future, not being paid in future, the money paid already should be recovered. It's illegally acquired. And this issue should be tested in court. I'm very serious. It should be tested in court. You cannot be receiving pension and be receiving salaries.
Okay, now over to you, Dr. Yahuza. I'd like to get your opinion on that.
Well, I think, recently retired Lieutenant General Yusuf Borate made a pronouncement in Ibadan during a paper he presented at an alumni of the university. He made mention, he challenged the politicians as responsible for all the security crisis happening in all parts of the country. Okay. And this is really an assertion. This is really a certification. This is really a justification. This is really some of the reasons why, at a time when you have batch A, batch B, batch C, batch D, batch E, batch F, batch G, batch H of the NYSC graduates, who none of them, less than 1%, are being employed into the system of governance. And yet, the people at the age of 60, 70, 80, who have governed the country and siphoned the resources and squandered the money they have borrowed from all countries and all other banks. Now they still wanted to loot more additional amount of money as part of the money that's supposed to be meant for national development and reduction, job creation and other things. Now they want it to still be maintained for themselves and for their families and for their own personal gain. It's really condemnable. And no right-thinking human being will ever accept this philosophy or this principle or ever will think, like mentioned by Dr. La, it is really a criminality. And if you combine, it is very clear you cannot be, if you resign, if you want to transfer your service from the state service, you cannot collect pension as the state service and then put a resignation, then join a federal civil service and still continue to collect salary. If you are found committing such offenses, you are going to be dealt with legally, and you are going to be prosecuted, and you are going to end your life. And I think it's more or less either life imprisonment or at least nothing less than 20-something years.
The judiciary system would be strong enough to actually hold those people accountable?
Well, some of the reasons why it is not is because of lack of the radical and activist lawyers who are really fighting the cause. I think we have had Gani Fahimi, and after his demise, after his death, now we have only one person. That is Falana. So if we have only Falana, we should have Falana from Kano, Falana from Sokoto, Falana from Imo, Falana from Enugu, or Rivers, Cross Rivers, from FCT, from Kaduna, Niger, Kogi, and all other states. So if they can team up and work, the reason, some of the other reasons is our judicial system is really compromising. These are some of the reasons. They are compromising the principles of law. They are compromising the principles of legal system, and they are not really working towards kind of striking and checking the laws that enacted the institutions. Because if at all the institutions that enacted the National Assembly, or definitely if you go back and check, there is nowhere that payment of pension can come up at a time when a governor is collecting huge sum amount of money. You have collected severance. You have collected severance in the name of gratuity. You have squandered huge amount of money in the name of security votes. You have not accounted for whatever you have in your account, and you have compromised most of them. When you check what they submitted as their properties going to the office, is what they have as their properties going out of the office. You've realized that it is cannot totally be acceptable. Had it been he was a governor, his name as a governor was mentioned since his 13th grandmother. So his 13th grandmother started collecting salary of a present governor. The 12th one, the 11th one, the 10th one, the 9th one, 7, 6, 5, 4, and to himself. When you put together the money he has in cash and in properties, when you transfer all of it, you ask why did he really get this money, if at all? So looking at putting all this into lump sum, it is highly condemnable, and Nigerians should come out en masse, and especially the legal personalities that should be, like mentioned by Dr. La, an activist that should be bringing this issue into the table so that they can take it before the court and then present it as an issue, so that they can have a further group like Labour and other institutions that we have, so that they can fight together against it. It is totally condemnable and cannot be acceptable.
Okay, all right, you've heard from our two guests. Now let's talk about something else that is bordering on the polity right now, which is Guba polls. We're talking about the off-cycle election and INEC's preparedness. One of the papers this morning, as that's the Nation's paper, that Yakubu challenges INEC staff members on integrity. Now, given what has happened in the past election, which of course has led to voter apathy, what are we looking at the next election? Dr. Law, I'd like you to give your overview on what you think your expectations are towards this election, because some have said, are we to expect a credible election from INEC? Are we to expect results to be uploaded in real time? Not just that, is it going to be transmitted?
Yeah, well, you see, some time ago, this issue of off-season elections coming up in Kogi, Imo, and Bayelsa, we try to address it here, and a few things have changed since then. I recall I strongly recommended that the 3 resident electoral commissioners need to be redeployed out of the states.
Okay.
That is one way of making room for integrity that Professor Mahmoud Yakubu has talked about. I also recommended that the 3 police commissioners for the 3 states will have to be redeployed. I'm happy, partly, that IGP Aboteko has been able to remove one, CP Balde of Imo. But he ostensibly is keeping that of Kogi and that of Yahuza. Kogi particularly also. The place is a hotbed, as far as I am concerned. It's a hotbed, and I don't see any reason why a fresh hand shouldn't have been made the head of election security in Kogi, just like the IGP has tried to bring in Imo State. These were my two recommendations then. They have not been met. Only one is, partially met. The deployment of the CP of Imo. Very, very important. I also heard that Professor Mahmoud Yakubu was saying that there will be uploading of results from polling units. Well, I have learned from experience not to believe Professor Yakubu, and he knows why. He has told us things even much more serious, and reneged at the nick of time when it mattered most. The man will simply, invoke one clause in the Constitution that this is independent National Electoral Commission, and therefore he has the right to decide what to do. That's why he fights. So I dare Mahmoud to prove me wrong by uploading the results from the polling units. Once he does so, there will be integrity. If he does not do that, he has opened the leeway for his staff to rig the election. That has always been the experience. You know why? What happens in the polling unit, right? The results declare that the polling units, between the polling units and the ward collation centers, figures get altered. And section 64, subsection 4 says the collation or returning officer shall announce result subject to verification and confirmation of results uploaded from the polling units. Subject to. That means making the results uploaded from polling units condition precedent to physical collation and announcement. That is what we want to do, nothing else. Once, in fact, we don't need any integrity of anybody. Because they have none. So if you want to rely on integrity of the INEC officials, you will have to wait till the second coming of Christ. What we want is the law. Section 64, subsection 4, to be respected. Upload the result from the polling unit. That's all. You know why? Once you upload the result from the polling unit, you take away their power to manipulate. Because once you alter the result, it will show in the variance that will occur in the one that you have brought to the collation center and the one that was uploaded in advance. Once there is that disparity, I think subsection 5 says that if there is disparity, the one front-loaded from the polling units will take precedence. Hasn't this solved the problems of integrity? That's what we wanted him to have done in the presidential election, which he blatantly refused to do, shut down IREV, turned around to say that he has the right to choose how to collate and announce results. We knew that the word independent is there in the commission, in the act, establishing the constitution, and the extra provisions found in the 1999 constitution, also setting up the commission. The ground norm, the constitution says we are independent. We understand that. If you know you were independent, why lead us through the hassles of amending the 2010 Electoral Act to arrive at 2022 Electoral Act, which brought in this section I mentioned now, that you transmit, you upload your result real time. Upload your result real time. You go home and sleep. Because what that means is that everybody is seeing it up there at the portal. At the IREV there, the results you uploaded are there for anybody to see. So if what you uploaded from polling units happens to be different from what is physically brought, it becomes a red flag. straight away. You don't need anybody to tell you that manipulation has occurred. Otherwise, there will be no difference between what was uploaded and what was brought. And once there is disparity, you activate the section that says that if there is disparity, the uploaded result takes a precedence. That's all we need. And finally, so I can yield the floor to my brother, Dr. Yahuza. See, on the side of the police, right? Unless you provide proper, comprehensive election security, you can't guarantee free and fair election. So apart from getting INEC to observe the law, even their own guidelines, everything they put down there in administrative law is very clear that if you bring out a guideline, you must obey it because you brought it upon yourself. So when you have a presidential election petition tribunal telling you that the INEC can disobey its own guidelines, it runs counter to the basic provisions of very ordinary administrative law. Administrative law, if you bring out a guideline, you must obey it. Nobody forced you to bring it out. If you bring it out, it becomes binding on you because everybody is working based on the guideline. And the INEC will bring out a guideline, publicize it with people's money, and abandon it on election day. And the people go around to talk about integrity. How? What does he mean by integrity? Obey the law, obey your guidelines. Then the Nigerian police, IGP Abatekun has to do more. He needs to do more than just deploy the CP Balde of Imo State. The same one under his watch that the IGP was almost killed, right? That's fine. It was one of the conditions given by Labour not to go on strike on 8th, right? Fine, we've done that. But it's not about Labour strike that is the issue here. We're talking about election security. We need to know, we have up to 8 local governments in Imo that are security challenged. The IGP needs to tell us, in collaboration with INEC, where elections will take place and where elections will not take place.
Well, they've said election won't take place in 40 places, but I'm not sure.
That's what I'm saying. They need to release, they need to publicize these places. So that, you know why I say so? If you do not let Nigerians know where elections will not take place, results will be written for those places. That's been our experience. You know why? INEC officials, those in charge of election security, see election as an opportunity to make money. This has been the bane. They see elections as an opportunity to do what? Make money. From the smallest to the biggest. In fact, the bigger you are, the more the money you would expect out of the election process. This shouldn't be. What that means is that you have monetized the process. It means that who will get security, who will get favors from whatever and possibly victory, should be the person that has a deeper pocket. That's not what it should be. We are fighting for the soul of democracy. We are fighting for restoration of the Nigerian nation state. We need to have very clear, transparent election in Kogi, in Yahuza, and in Imo. If not for anything, to enable INEC to redeem its suffering credibility.
But do you think they even want to redeem that?
That's the question. That's the question.
All right, speaking about Kogi elections, I'd like to clarify there about something that's been making rounds about the SDP governorship candidates. Kanslini Army has come out in one of his posts to say he has not stepped down. I'd like to take the Social Democratic Party candidate for the Kogi governorship election, Alhaji Murtala Yakubu Ajaka, has denied stepping down from the race. So that means Ajaka is still in the race, and of course is going to be there come 11th of November for the Kogi state election. And now I'll move to Dr. Yahuza. Still on the same question. I'd like to take your opinion on that.
Well, I have already have approving reasons why I'm doubtful on the credibility of anything that comes from Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. I cannot expect anything credible from him.
All right.
I want to take you back. I have participated in election monitoring 5 years back, and I have participated in the recent election that was conducted in the FCT area councils. And I am one of the key stakeholders. I happens to be a secretary of the FCT of one of the political party then, before I disengaged myself from some of the partisan polity activity. And there was a presentation being made. I look at Mahmoud Yakubu eyeball to eyeball at the presentation, while all the security heads of the FCT and all the recs of all the states were brought down to support in delivering the FCT. One from the machines INEC brought to have, which they tested during the FCT area council's election, which sequel to that it was used for the national election in the 2023 and other rerun election in other states. Those machines, most of them, the materials arrive polling units late, some after 12:30, some after 1 p.m. And the election was closed by 3-4 p.m. So the rights and privileges of the electorates were denied. And then many other parts of the FCT, the election material have not reached, and yet we have had the results, like mentioned by some of the fears raised and concerned by Dr. La. So no, so now that is one. And secondly, the case of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu certificate, all the contradictions ABCD had made it difficult for me to have any expect anything credible from Professor Mahmoud of INEC or INEC itself entirely, because I think when they have done their job well done at the initial stage, when any of the candidates made submission of his or her certificates, INEC is supposed to have gone to all the institutions or find any possible way of certifying that these certificates were correct, not even to allow huge amount of money from individuals and the federal government to be wasted in the name of going to the USA, ABCD, EFG, HIGK, and whatever.
So that means they didn't even do their due
diligence. Of course, they have not done the due diligence. And three, the result of the elections from many other states that is being contradicted by many tribunals. This has also sent a question of for me not to expect anything credibility from INEC and its leadership. And five, they have raised a lot of concerns, which shows the plan for compromise for Kogi election, Bayelsa and Imo in the case of fear of security. Of course, we have enough personnel to be mobilized to be sure that election is conducted to each and every polling unit in Imo and all other states, as far as I'm concerned. In the case of redeployment, as far as I'm concerned, any officer in the police that rise to the rank of CSP should be flushed out of Bayelsa, flushed out of Imo, and flushed out of Kogi, not only even the CPs. You need to redeploy all of them from Bayelsa, take them to Sokoto, take those from Sokoto to go and conduct the election in Bayelsa. Those from Maiduguri, bring them to Imo. Those from Imo, take them to Maiduguri, to Borno State. Those from probably Katsina, take them to Kogi, and those in Kogi, let them go to Katsina and rest until and after the election, then including the Brigade of Guards, the Nigerian Army, and all the Nigerian Air Force bases and all the civil defense. The senior officers from the rank of CSP should be redeployed out of those states. I participated in election monitoring at various levels. I know the roles they have been playing. I know how they have been compromising. And I know the strategy, and I know how the system works. The INEC officials don't even have access sometimes when they distribute materials. They cannot even have most of the presiding officers read election at the collation center of the local government. The election that's supposed to be read and also offloaded by law at the polling unit, as mentioned by the law of the INEC and the guidelines. And in most cases, the party agents, they end up not even having a copy of the result. Talk less of signing. No result is accepted if a party one of the party agents have not signed. But in most cases, they don't even have access to it. They don't know when who is the winner of the election at that polling unit. They get dispersed, tear gassed, and so on and so forth. And then they allow thugs to take over the polling units as an adventure to the party that have the high capacity of either the thuggery or the leadership or whatever, or have the control of the security agencies. In fact, in most cases, sometimes you find out that you call the divisional police officer of a given local government. I can tell you what happens during the election in Kano, what happens during the election rerun election in some of the states that I have attended. What happened during the 2023 election, even in Kano and many other parts of the states where I checked and I monitor. You realize that you call the divisional police officer that you need a security attention at so polling unit. The divisional police officer, who is the head of the security agencies in that local government, will tell you, I am constrained. Our vehicles doesn't even have fuel. I cannot even communicate to the commanding officers of the unit that went to political works. We have only 7 vehicles. All the security personnel have been distributed into 7, and we have 11 political works, and we have crisis from over 40 polling units in one political ward. So how do you expect credibility from such a person? So I don't even expect anything credibility from INEC as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, now you don't expect...
I don't
okay,
I don't at all.
All right.
And I believe that INEC is not ready and is not willing. They are just kind of a clearing route so that they can send a message that we wanted to do our best. How can you do your best when you are not ready? How can you do your best when you are not coordinated? How can you do your best when you compromise on the laws in the 2023 election and even before? How can you be ready when you compromise many of the outlines and guidelines that you have in your records, which you use our own money, hard-earned resources, hard-earned resources, they pay money, use it to print out guidelines that you don't respect. And most of the electoral officers as the local government, they don't even read. They don't even know the content in the book. And the quality of the training is being compromised at the local government level, at the state level. Most of the INEC officials, when you go during the pre-election training at the local government level, at the state level, you realize that if you have 20 local government, you realize that maybe you have 17 electoral officers present. So those 3 local government, what will happen? And even those 17 that are available, in most cases, after 10-30 minutes, you will see 2 of them say, I want to ease myself, I have an excuse here, I have this, I have that. Bring all of them to the national level. Or if rerun election is going to happen in Imo, take all the electoral officers to Kaduna, all of them to Kaduna, get a compose and conduct an in-house training. But as far as training is going to take place and to be led by the REC of Kogi State, you can't get credible. Nothing credible can come from INEC under the leadership of Professor Mahmoud. There is nothing. I lost confidence in him. I lost confidence in his leadership, and I don't believe, and I will never believe that there is anything credible that will come from him.
That's an interesting perspective, Dr. Yahuza. I would like to ask you one more question before we wrap it up. They say once beaten is twice shy. Now that you said you've lost credibility when it comes to INEC, I'd like to talk about the police. Of course, you're a security expert. The election security, the last time it was not something good to write them about. What's your are your expectations this time?
Well, the reality, like I said, I can't say that all the Kogi divisional police offices they have a sound, organized, well-checked, well-inspected vehicle that can move around all the polling units in one of the one of the local governments. That is 1. 2, I am doubtful if required logistics and all the procurement process have been put in place to have all the necessary logistics delivered as at when due, and to be escorted, especially with the questions of security that we have.
All right, so sorry to
I hope to be one of the election monitors on ground. I'm waiting for clearance.
Okay.
I hope to be one of the election monitors in either Okene or in Kaba area, so I can see it to myself.
Okay,
and I will be reporting to you directly if I got the clearance to be there.
We'll be waiting for that. Just sorry to interject you. One of the papers this morning, that's Nigerian Tribune, has said the IGP has begun he started distribution of new vehicles, security personnel. Of course, that's a copy of Nigerian Tribune. It's on page 22. But now, distribution of new vehicles, security personnel. It begs the question: what did we use during presidential election?
Well, that is one of the questions. You know, I made mention now, and I challenge the IGP. If it is only now, when the election is coming, that you know it is important to distribute vehicles. I want to tell you that there are thousands on ground in Kogi, Imo and Bayelsa who are ready to destroy those new vehicles because of the frustration that you have not provided those vehicles to support the security of lives and property. You are only after election. You are only after boosting the elites who always went against the large populace. I'm really discouraged. I'm disappointed with IGP.
Okay.
If it is now that he knew that it is important to distribute new vehicles, after when thousands are being killed, thousands are being kidnapped, lives and properties are being destroyed, a lot of people's lives are being threatened, and a lot of police on ground don't even have their promotion kind of affected. And at a time when many of the police officers don't even have a good uniform and a good boot, and at a time when many part of Kogi, many part of Bayelsa, many part of Imo cannot be accessible, when INEC is saying that 40 polling units or so, or thereby cannot be able to conduct election in those places, why can't you provide machineries 30 days, 40 days, 40 months ago to make sure that you fix things so that lives and property are there? And then the people of Kogi, the people of Bayelsa, the people of Imo will know that we own this election, we own the process, and will protect. We will escort the ballot papers and all the logistics materials from the local government election INEC office to each of the polling units. But when we are sending the vehicles now, be rest assured many of these vehicles will be burnt down. I'm not saying that I know it will happen, but I perceive we will come back to this table and revisit these vehicles, and I will give you the results.
All right, Dr. Law, in 1 minute as we wrap up, I'd like to get your opinion on the distribution of vehicles to security personnel by the IGP as we round up.
Well, I would say better later than never. IGP Abotekon is new. He's barely 3 months on the job. So if he is seen those needs and responding to them, well, we give him benefit of the doubt. Okay. That is one level of it. And I also want to reiterate that free and fair election at any level, free and fair election at any level, you know, it's in the hands of INEC and the police. Let INEC do its job by following the law. Okay. Let the police provide security for lives and their property. It's very basic. But the tendency of the police to pander to the incumbent government, to pander to government. Do you understand that? In the name of the so-called security funds. You know, it is the governor will now move in money and call it this is security fund. You know, for optics, right? The CP is not supposed to collect money from the governor on election. Do you understand that? It ought to come from IGP. If you collect the money from the governor, your allegiance will be to him.
All right, Dr.
That is where the problem is. Okay. That is the main source of compromise that we witness in election security.
Okay, all right, Dr. Lo and Dr. Yahuza, I beg us to wrap it up now as we draw the curtain for the Polity. Thank you so much for being a guest today on the Polity, and Dr. Yahuza.
Thank you very much.
Insightful one with you. All right, this is where we wrap it up for the Polity for today. I remain Miss Babajide. See you same time, same station tomorrow. Bye.